Hello everybody, my name is Zachary Delhoots. I wrote about Desiree's Baby by Kate Chopin, and the title of my paper was Plebeians, Women, and Slaves, The Struggles of Life During the Antebellum Period. Catherine O'Flaherty, also known as Kate Chopin, was born in St. Louis, Missouri on February 8, 1850. Her mother was of French heritage, while her father was a successful businessman and an Irish immigrant. Her dad died in a train wreck when she was only 4 years old, leaving her with her mother and grandmother. When Catherine was 9 years old, she was accepted into the St. Louis Academy of Sacred Heart. After she left at 19 years old, she married Oscar Chopin, a successful cotton broker, where they moved to New Orleans to live there together for a decade. Chopin returned to St. Louis in 1884 after her husband died, after which she lived with her mother for about a year until she died, leaving her to raise her 6 children alone. She began her literacy career by writing about the Creole and Cajun culture she was exposed to while she was in New Orleans. Chopin's major work, known as The Awakening, was published in 1899. After she finished The Awakening, her health deteriorated until she died August 22nd, 1904. In 1970, The Awakening and other works became known as major achievements in American literature. Chopin uses the themes of classism, sexism, racism, which are portrayed through the relationship between Armand and Leblanche, the relationship between Armand and Desiree, and the birth of Armand and Desiree's baby to give insight into the social problems during the antebellum. Chopin introduces the theme of classism through the relationship between Armand and Leblanche. In the story, Leblanche is a female who happens to be one of the slaves in which Armand owned. However, there was more to their relationship than the slave-to-master bond. At some point within their interactions, it was implied that Armand had sexual relationship with Leblanche. This relationship was not common during the setting of the book. That being said, it was still seen as a social taboo to other slave owners. What makes this relationship confusing is that Armand already had a wife, which brings up the question why he needed a mistress in the first place. According to Krauss and Park, Armand interacted with those around him differently based on his perception of their social class within society. Since Armand was at the top of the southern social class in the United States, by being a slave owner, he was allowed to interact with his slaves in whatever manner he deemed necessary. If he had not been a slave owner, he would not have had any of these privileges he was privy to in the first place. However, Armand's unethical decision to have a mistress could have been a result from his social class rank entirely. According to Piff, due to the fact that Armand had more resources and possessed a higher rank within the social economic hierarchy, he tended to feel entitled to whatever he wanted to obtain. The power that Armand gained from his social class could have corrupted his personality, leaving him to make the unethical decisions he did with Leblanche. Chopin used this theme to give explanations as to why Armand used some of the unethical decisions that he did, especially concerning his relationship with Leblanche, since he rejected his own wife due to the possibility of being black. This is not the only theme that Chopin expresses through other characters' relationships with one another. Secondly, Chopin continues to implement themes within character interactions using Desiree and Armand's relationship to signify sexism. Desiree is a white female who Armand encountered while he was out traveling. At first sight, Armand was enchanted by her unmatched beauty. He knew that she was the only one that could become his wife, and after they got married, they lived in the Aubigny estate, to which Armand was heir to inherit. According to Lee, Armand used the benevolent system of relationship, which meant that Armand set up traditional roles for males and females in the relationship. Everything was going great until Desiree and Armand's first child, and their relationship took a turn for the worst. Armand began to act differently towards everyone around him. Specifically, his attitude towards his wife changed as he began to avoid her. Before they had their child, Armand was so infatuated with her he could barely leave her side. Now, however, he would never make the effort to engage in any activity with her. Desiree even began to move out of her passive nature to interact with Armand, only to receive short responses that indicated that he did not want to interact with her. To Armand, according to Peale, his wife was originally a screen into which he could project what he desired. When he found a black mark on the screen, he rejected it. When Desiree finally came to the realization of the position she was in, she went into full confusion and disarray. She felt as though she had failed in her position as a wife to Armand, so she could not produce an offspring that would make him happy again and embrace her. This led to her make the drastic decision to leave Armand with her child in her arms and walk into the bayou, never to be seen or heard from again. Chopin wanted to convey how Armand uses sexism in the relationship to control and manipulate Desiree until he was not satisfied with her anymore. Finally, Chopin's last theme that she integrates within characters and interactions is the relationship between Armand and his newly born child to signify racism. After Armand and Desiree got married and finally moved into the Albany plantation house, things started to settle down until the birth of Armand's new son, which only brought him misery and torment. The only problem that Armand had with his newly born son was the fact that his skin color was not white like his mother or father. Chopin wrote, "He hasn't punished one of them, not one of them since the baby was born." This caused a major concern not only to Armand, but also the neighbors that lived around him. This was because blacks were seen as inferior compared to their white counterparts. According to Ellis, it is said that research showed that black internal organs such as brains were smaller than whites, which led to false statements that Africans were inferior. The pressure and uneasiness of the other slave owners to deal with this new problem of his ultimately had an effect on his changing attitude towards those around him. According to Foy, with racial prejudice and psychological confusion as sources of his cruelty, Armand has no choice but to turn from Desiree and the baby. All of Armand's problems and unhappiness came from the fact that his son was not white-skinned as he expected him to be. Chopin used racism throughout Armand and his son's relationship to show how much influence racism had on society during this time. To reiterate, Chopin uses the relationships of Armand and LeBlanche, Armand and Desiree, and the birth of Armand and Desiree's baby to personify the themes of classes of sexism and racism intertwined throughout the story. Chopin uses these themes in order to confirm just how difficult life was for certain groups within American society. She also wanted to prove how much influence these themes had on an individual's personality as well as the society as a whole during the antebellum period. These are my works cited, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time and listening to this, and to wish you all luck in your future endeavors. Thank you.